Look, man.
Danny, I know I look stupid.
Yo, take cover!
When the smoke fades away, a huge yellow robot suddenly rises from the ground. Looking at the vast fog in front of him, the officer was immediately frightened. The robot soon sensed that danger was approaching, so it quickly hid in the dense forest. When the officer regained consciousness, he hurriedly ordered his men to chase the robot. He must bring it back to the base for research. Unexpectedly, in the next second, it suddenly transformed into a military jeep. Under the crazy scan of the soldier's gun, the robot had to desperately escape. After dodging the soldier's grenade, he pulled out a dozen-meter-long steel blade. The two big trees in front of him were temporarily blocked by the soldiers chasing them. But not long after, they were found again. When he wanted to rush into the mine to escape, he was directly hit by an armored vehicle. The fully armed soldiers immediately surrounded him. The officer quickly explained.
This is a mistake.
Stay cool. Hold your fire.
I don't want to hurt anyone.
Just as the two sides were about to meet, a deafening sound was heard in the sky. A jet fighter quickly took off.
Who called in the Air Force?
That's not the Air Force.
And the other side is the enemy of the officer. Bashianhu's gold medalist Flash. Right. The human soldiers were seriously injured. Then Flash transformed in the air and fought with the officer to the death. One is the gold medalist, the other is the god of martial arts. I thought the battle between the two sides would last a long time. But Flash, with his own flying advantage, directly rushed into the air with De Huangfeng. At a critical moment, De Huangfeng pierced his spray device with a knife. This is how he got back to the ground. However, as soon as he landed, Flash pulled out a revolver.
Tell me where your friends are hiding.
I'll never talk.
Is that right?
After a turn of fire, he pinched De Huangfeng's neck. The angry Flash cruelly pierced the throat of De Huangfeng. He pulled out all his generators. Then he threw the seriously injured De Huangfeng down. Just as Flash was about to completely terminate De Huangfeng, he didn't know that De Huangfeng already had a countermeasure.
To death.
De Huangfeng successfully killed the opponent. Although he won the battle, the core system of De Huangfeng was severely damaged. Even the memory module was severely damaged. At the last moment before he ran out of energy, he scanned a yellow fake buggy. He used this to cover his breath and fell into a long sleep. No one would have thought that the warrior who once ruled the universe would be settled in the waste pile of the earth in this way. Until the appearance of this girl, the gears of fate began to fluctuate again. Charlie fell in love with this car at first sight. But he didn't know how to get out of the car. Although he seemed to be about to go bankrupt, Charlie still climbed into the driver's seat to experience it. Although the car was full of dust, he was excited. Because he didn't have enough savings to buy a car, the repairman didn't hesitate to give it to him. Charlie drove this yellow car that was about to go bankrupt and left. However, in the eyes of others, Charlie bought such a broken car and was crazy. But they didn't know that the arrival of this car would completely change his life track. That night, Charlie brought a tool to the bottom of the car to prepare for repair. When he used a flashlight to observe the chassis, he accidentally touched a part. There was a pair of sparkling blue eyes at the bottom of the car. Charlie was so scared that he wanted to run away, but when he looked back with courage again, he found that the robot was not malicious. He just saw the other person shaking in the corner very shyly, like a frightened child. It turned out that after hearing the sound of the big yellow wind, he returned to the car again. This was not found by Charlie's mother. When the mother left, the big yellow wind changed again. Charlie plucked up courage and carefully approached the big yellow wind. However, when the big yellow wind saw the handle in Charlie's hand, it was back and forth. Charlie immediately sensed his fear and threw the tool aside. He raised his hands to show that he had no malice. The big yellow wind felt the kindness of the girl and took the initiative to put his big head on Charlie's palm. This wonderful connection that transcends species also marks the beginning of the friendship between the two people. The encounter of two lonely souls can often produce the strongest emotional ties.
Charlie. Charlie Watson. I'm 18. Today. Actually, it's my birthday today. What's your name? You don't know or you don't have a name? You sound like a little bumblebee. I'm gonna call you that from now on. Bumblebee.
Understanding and kindness are bridges that cross racial and linguistic barriers. At the same time, the members of the Bashianhu also tracked the Earth. However, after they saw the human, they brutally smashed a human into pieces. Then they turned into two cars and left. At this time, Burns' assistant sent an intelligence. Their satellite captured two mysterious objects landing on the Earth. So the military immediately set up a fence and intercepted them on their way. The enemy of the enemy is a friend. Bashianhu lied to himself that he was a new police officer. He was chasing a dangerous criminal named B-127. He wanted to use the satellite of humans to find the other party's location. Although Burns was firmly opposed to this, the military senior officials believed it to be true and wanted to use it to obtain satellite technology. So they began to assist Bashianhu to search for traces of the big yellow wind around the world. On the other hand, when the big yellow wind was not at home, he tried to understand human life through exploration. He saw the dog in the house digging in and out of the dog hole and tried to dig in, but he was too strong and knocked down the whole wooden door. He stood up and dug into the living room. But because the body was too big, he would hit something if he moved a little. He saw a bottle of Araguin drink on the table and was curious to reach out his finger to grab it. As a result, due to poor control, he smashed the jar directly. The brown liquid sprayed on his face. The big yellow wind shook his hand in panic and turned the table over by the way. After a lot of trouble, he became interested in the TV again. When he was about to sit on the sofa and enjoy the show, the soft sofa was directly collapsed by him. Then he began to study the coffee machine again. He moved the clock on it and the coffee leaves floated out like a fountain. The big yellow wind tried to block the gap, but it was useless. In a hurry, he picked up the coffee machine and pulled the power cord directly. At this time, he looked around and found the plug on the wall. So out of curiosity, he reached out his metal finger. And this is his operation that let the military satellite capture the energy fluctuation on him.
What's happening here?
We got a hit, I think. Where's that location?
Near San Francisco, a coastal town named Brighton Falls.
The powder and rebound balls immediately locked the target and rushed to Charlie's house. At the same time, Charlie also returned home. When he saw a wolf-like scene, he was shocked. But when he saw the big yellow wind look aggrieved, Charlie couldn't bear to blame him. In order to avoid being discovered by his mother and stepfather, Charlie had to hurry up and let this troublemaker leave the scene. At this time, Charlie's mother also just returned home. When he saw the situation at home, he directly pointed at Charlie. Charlie wanted to explain, but his mother didn't give him a chance to explain. Charlie, who was extremely sad, directly took his friend to drive the big yellow wind away. However, not long after they left, he was stopped by the military led by Burns. In order to protect Charlie, the big yellow wind stood up without hesitation and directly held Charlie up and down the hill. This kind of instinctive protection made the role of the big yellow wind have a humanistic glow. The highest level of emotion does not need a reason. He has been engraved into a life level code. However, they, who had just escaped the military, directly hit the powder and rebound balls. The powder directly fired an energy cannon. A huge shockwave flew him first, and Charlie was thrown out.
B-127, you're a traitor and a coward. Tell us where Optimus Prime is hiding.
Hey, look out!
Why isn't he fighting back? Why don't you fight?
Leave him alone, please!
The army rushed to hit the big yellow wind with an electromagnetic gun. Charlie tried to rush up to save people, but was stunned when he touched the current. In this way, the big yellow wind, who lost the ability to resist, was taken to a secret military base. And Charlie was sent home by Burns and told his mother to take good care of his daughter, and told them that Charlie was in contact with a war machine. Charlie tried his best to explain that the big yellow wind was not malicious. However, in the eyes of the military, the big yellow wind is a war machine. In the eyes of the parents, Charlie's insistence is a rebellious fantasy. No one is willing to stop and listen to the truth. Charlie, who was disappointed, went back to his room to look at his father's photo, and the big yellow wind is the only one, so he immediately found his friend John and decided to save the big yellow wind who was in danger.
Look. You two. Get over here.
In the dark military secret base, the big yellow wind was hung by a large iron chain in the air. The two Battengers tried to dig out the whereabouts of the car. But when they learned that the big yellow wind's memory module was damaged, the angry rebound ball kicked him directly and was ready to completely terminate the big yellow wind. But at this time, the full-body image device in the big yellow wind was accidentally activated, and a large image of Charlie appeared in the air. The two Battengers knew that Charlie would be here soon.
We will fight on. Regroup, rebuild, and retake our home. But we must find refuge first. You will travel to Earth. Once we've gathered the others, we'll join you. You must protect the planet. If the Decepticons find it, then our people are truly finished. Stay safe, soldier.
They realized that this was an opportunity to kill all the cars.
This is our chance to wipe out the Autobot resistance for good.
We'll burn the whole planet to cinders.
At this time, the scientists who had been assisting them finally discovered the conspiracy of the Battengers. However, as soon as he connected the phone of Burns, he was cruelly smashed into a mass of blood. Before Battenger left, he fired a shot at the big yellow wind, which caused the core of his energy to be almost destroyed. Then Battenger rushed to the nearby signal tower, and at this time, Charlie also came to the base. Seeing the energy-losing big yellow wind, Charlie was heartbroken, but Charlie was not reconciled. He found a few high-pressure electric guns next to him, so he decided to die and be a living horse. He rescued the big yellow wind. After several powerful electric machines, the big yellow wind still had no reaction. When Charlie wanted to give up, the big yellow wind next to him slowly rose up. His eyes lit up blue again. His memory module was also repaired by the impact of energy. He finally remembered his identity. Miracles often happen in the last effort. Without Charlie's never giving up stubbornness, the big yellow wind may always be just a pile of scrap iron. At the same time, Burns also rushed to the base with his soldiers. They, who did not know the truth, attacked the big yellow wind directly. The angry big yellow wind did not bear it without his weapon.
Take cover!
Seeing the soldiers in danger, Charlie hurried up to stop the big yellow wind. After seeing Charlie, the big yellow wind calmed down instantly. He realized that the most important thing at present is to stop the Bashianho launch signal. So the big yellow wind immediately transformed into a car and left with Charlie.